Hello and welcome back to our online English class. Today we are going to finish Unit 6, Time. And if you remember from previous lessons, we talked a lot about time-saving devices. And we also discussed clauses of reason with because and clauses of concession with although. And today we are going to practice what we've learned with our writing lesson, and that's on page 78 in your student's book, page 78. So Lesson E, Writing. Now let's look at exercise 1. You'll see a list of devices and their advantages and disadvantages. So let's look at the example. The first device is a calculator, and one advantage is does math quickly. And then a disadvantage is breaks easily. Maybe we could add doesn't stimulate your math skills. I think maybe that's a better one because I don't know if a calculator really breaks easily. But anyway, you don't have to use those. You can come up with your own, of course. And so I want you to practice making sentences with each of these devices that you come up with, and practice using although and because. Okay, so for example, we can say, many people use calculators because they do math quickly. You could also say, many people use a calculator because it does math quickly. But it's probably better to use the plural form in this case because we're speaking generally. So we use the because clause, but you can also use an although clause. So you could say, although a calculator does math quickly, it breaks easily. Or you can use the phrase, the disadvantage that I came up with. You could say, although a calculator does math quickly, it doesn't stimulate your math skills. And you can also use because and although. You can use both. So for example, although a calculator does math quickly, you shouldn't use it too often because it doesn't stimulate your math skills. So go ahead and take some time to fill out this list. You don't have to go all the way to number 8 if you can't think of that many. So just do as many as you can think of, and at least one advantage and at least one disadvantage, and make sentences using although and because or both. Okay? Okay, so now let's move on to exercise B. I'm going to read the paragraph and I want you to go ahead and follow along. My favorite time-saving device. My favorite time-saving device, voicemail, has many advantages, but it also has some disadvantages. Before I had voicemail, I used to answer my phone every time it rang, even if I was busy. But with voicemail, I don't have to interrupt my work. The caller can just leave a message and I can get it later. Another benefit of voicemail is that it allows me to avoid talking to people I don't want to talk to. But of course, that is also a disadvantage because they can avoid talking to me. Another problem is that not only friends leave messages. Sometimes there are voicemail messages from salespeople. So even though voicemail is very convenient, it has drawbacks as well. Now, if you look at the note in the bottom right-hand corner, it says, one way of organizing a paragraph is by describing advantages and disadvantages. So you can see that we practiced making sentences with advantages and disadvantages in the first exercise, and even this activity organizes the information into advantages and disadvantages. So now I want you to go ahead and look at page 79, and you'll see a diagram of the information in the paragraph. And the paragraph is about voicemail. and it's organized into the advantages and disadvantages of voicemail. So as you can see, and one of the advantages is don't have to interrupt work. So this is just a short or summarized version of the sentence which says, I don't have to interrupt my work. So when you write notes on these blanks, you don't have to write full sentences, you can just write short phrases. So go ahead and complete the rest of the diagram. Okay, another advantage is allows you to avoid talking to people you don't want to. Okay, and then a disadvantage is people can avoid talking to you. And another disadvantage is not only friends leave messages, or maybe you can say sometimes there are unwanted messages. Okay, so if you make this into a sentence, you could say, some advantages of voicemail are that you don't have to interrupt your work, and it allows you to avoid talking to people you don't want to. So try to make a sentence for the disadvantages. Okay, so you might say, some disadvantages of voicemail are that people can avoid talking to you, and not only friends leave messages. Okay, so we are going to skip the rest of this page for now, and we will come back to it later. But I want you to go ahead and open your workbook to page 74. Workbook, page 74. Okay, so this is another very similar activity. So let's take a look at the article. A device that doesn't save time. Now, before I continue, if you want, you can pause the video and you can read it on your own for practice, or you can just follow along as I read. Okay, so here we go. For me, a cell phone has some advantages, but it has more disadvantages. Although I have a cell phone, it doesn't really save me very much time. It is very convenient because I can make calls wherever I am. I can use it to take pictures, and it's also very good in an emergency. But my mother sometimes calls and talks for an hour when I'm busy. I often forget my cell phone at home, so I have to go back to get it. It's easy to lose my phone, and then I spend a lot of time looking all over my house to find it. And I always have to be careful not to break it. 2 months ago, I bought a new cell phone. It's a smartphone. Even though I read the instructions many times, I couldn't understand how to use it. I had to go back to the store and ask the salesperson. I guess another disadvantage is the time it takes to learn how to use it. Okay, so now let's take a look at the diagram. So just like our student's book, you can see advantages and disadvantages. So take some time to fill out this diagram and we will look at it together. Okay, so the first advantage, as we can see in the book, is it's very convenient. And we can also include, you can make calls wherever you are. And then you can take pictures. And it's good in an emergency. Okay, and for disadvantages, it doesn't save much time. It's easy to lose. Mother often calls when I'm busy. I often forget my cell phone at home. It takes a long time to learn how to use it. And I have to be careful not to break it. Okay, and they might be in a different order for you, and that's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at page 75. Exercise 2. Read the sentences about smartphones, then complete the chart. Okay, so go ahead and take some time to read each sentence and identify if the sentence is an advantage about smartphones or a disadvantage about smartphones. And then you can organize the sentences into the correct categories. So let's look at the first sentence. It says, you can look up information on the internet anywhere. So this is an advantage. So we can put that in the advantages of smartphones column. Okay, so go ahead and complete this exercise. Okay, let's look at the second sentence. You can write text messages easily and quickly. So this is an advantage. And the next one, they cost a lot of money. This is a disadvantage. It's easier to find places when you are walking or driving. Advantage. They can distract you when you are trying to do other things. Disadvantage. You can play games or listen to music anywhere. Advantage. And you have to spend a lot of time learning to use them. Disadvantage. Okay, now look at exercise 3. It says, write a paragraph about smartphones. Use your chart from exercise 2 to help you. So we are going to organize these sentences into one paragraph. And if you look at the first sentence that's given to you, it says, there are advantages and disadvantages of having a smartphone. So this is the topic sentence. And you can use the sentences from exercise 2 as supporting details. And if you want, you can add a conclusion to wrap up your paragraph. And since we are talking about the advantages and disadvantages of smartphones, it would be good to include some transition words like also, in addition, and however. So there are some more as well, but for example, you could say, you can look up information on the internet anywhere. You can also write text messages quickly and easily, or easily and quickly. But then you can also include however when you are going from an advantage to a disadvantage. For example, you can write text messages easily and quickly. However, they cost a lot of money. You can also include because and although clauses. So for example, you might say, it's easier to find places when you are walking or driving because of the GPS and location applications. So you can add your own sentences or add more detail to each sentence. Okay, so go ahead and take some time to write this paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to just read an example paragraph. Of course, yours might look a little different, and that's fine, but let me go ahead and read it. There are advantages and disadvantages of having a smartphone. You can look up information on the internet anywhere, and you can write text messages easily and quickly. It's easier to find places when you are walking or driving because of the GPS and location applications. You can also play games or listen to music anywhere. However, there are some disadvantages as well. They can distract you when you are trying to do other things, and they cost a lot of money. For some people, it takes a lot of time to learn how to use them. Although there are some disadvantages, I think there are many benefits of using a smartphone. So as you can see, I added some words and phrases, I combined some sentences, I changed some of the words in some of the sentences, and I added a conclusion. So I hope this activity helped you develop your writing skills. So we're going to go back to our student's book on page 80. Student's book, page 80. Lesson F. Okay, so let's look at exercise 1, life skills reading. Internet use has increased significantly since its beginnings in the 1960s. Reasons for using it have also increased. The following data show the results of one county survey to compare its use by seniors with other adults. Okay, so the title of this chart is Internet Activities of Adults in Greene County. Now, if you look at the word adults, you can see an asterisk, and if you find the asterisk at the bottom of the chart, it says 100 adults were interviewed. 20 of those adults were seniors. Okay, so you can see the activities and 2 groups of adults. So the first group is adults who are 18 through 64 years old, and the second group is adults who are 65 plus years old, or 65 and over. So that would be seniors. Okay, so let's look at some of the activities. Use the internet, communication such as emails and chats, social networks, consumer services, financial services, entertainment, and searches. So you can see the percentage of the adults from both groups who use the internet for these activities. So go ahead and look over the chart and answer the questions. And also try to make complete sentence answers. So after you find the answer, try to write a complete sentence. Okay, so number 1, how many seniors were interviewed? So you can say 20 seniors were interviewed. 20 seniors were interviewed. Number 2, of those surveyed, how many were adults under 65? So you can say 80% of those surveyed were adults under 65. Or you could say, of those surveyed, 80% were adults under 65. And then number 3, which internet activity is more popular with seniors than with other adults? So you can say, searches are more popular with seniors than with other adults. And finally, number 4, in which area is there the biggest difference in how seniors and other adults use the internet? So there are lots of ways you can make this sentence. You could say, the biggest difference in how seniors and other adults use the internet is in entertainment. Or you can say, entertainment has the biggest difference in how seniors and other adults use the internet. Or you could say, in entertainment, there is the biggest difference in how seniors and other adults use the internet. Okay, so this time I want you to make a question, and the answer is communication. The answer is communication. So find that activity in the chart, and I want you to make a question with communication as the answer. Okay, so you can say, which internet activity is most popular with adults? Okay, which internet activity is most popular with adults? Or you can include Greene County. You can say, which internet activity is most popular with adults in Greene County? Okay, and the answer is communication. You can see that 90% of younger adults use the internet for communication, and 72.25% of older adults or seniors use the internet for communication. So communication is the most popular activity for both groups. So for adults surveyed in Greene County. Okay, let's look at exercise B. Solve the problem. Give your opinion. Last year, Juan gave his teenage son a computer for his birthday. It is in his bedroom. Now he spends a lot of time in his bedroom playing games online. His grades are not good, and his teachers report that he doesn't turn in his homework. What should Juan do? So if you have a teenager, it would be a great opportunity to talk to them about their opinions and their suggestions. So go ahead and take some time to think about some solutions and make sentences using should. Okay, so you might have said, Juan should limit his son's internet usage. Or Juan should put the computer in the living room or in a family room. Or if you want to be more strict, you could say, Juan should take away his son's computer until his grades improve and he does his homework.